Billy Grant from Experian Hitwise, and a quick agenda for today. We're just going to be going over a bit of a recap of 2014, looking at some of those key dates, a quick overview of email marketing and what worked for retailers last year. We'll then be going over top tips for 2015, primarily based on last year's behaviour, but sort of trends we see year after year. Also making some predictions for Christmas 2015, and then a quick idea of how we can help you with your measurement over the festive period as well. If there are any questions, we will be answering them at the end, and if you could enter them through the panel, which I believe is on the right-hand side of your screens, we'll come on to those at the end. So without further ado, quick overview of what we saw in 2014. I think the elephant in the room is clearly Black Friday. I think certainly we were taken by surprise with just how significant this was in terms of driving visits to the online retail landscape. Estimated total spend of £810 million just on this day, which is clearly very significant. The growth year on year is really the figure that matters. I mean, 60% up is something we didn't see across any other day, and it actually turned into the busiest online retail day of 2014. So massively significant. I think we'll probably all remember the number of websites being taken down by sheer demand, and certainly this year we're expecting it to be big again. Cyber Monday as well was another big growth day. So 40% year on year in terms of the increase in traffic volume to retail websites, and again, estimated total spend of over £700 million. So clearly significant. Manic Monday as well. Good growth, maybe not as high as we had expected, but still one of the key shopping days coming into the Christmas season. Christmas Day, 30% growth year on year. So again, big uplifts. Nearly 150 million visits to retail websites. So despite the fact everyone should be sitting down, spending time with their families, most of us are actually shopping. So something to watch this year as well. Boxing Day was probably the biggest surprise. So in terms of the busiest online shopping days, that's really switched places with Black Friday, and that is the first time that we've seen this behaviour happen in the 7 years that we've been looking at visits over the Christmas season. So a real binary shift in behaviour from UK consumers. However, Boxing Day is still pretty big. We shouldn't be ignoring it. Pushing £700 million being spent online, but with a relatively modest uplift of 21% year-on-year growth in overall traffic volumes. Compared with the other days, I think we're seeing the significance of Boxing Day diminish slightly, or at least that's plateauing off. New Year's Day as well, still big in terms of growth. We're not quite seeing the levels of spend that we do across those other core days, though. And just a quick summary of what that looks like in terms of traffic volume over those key days. So this is a daily view of total visits to the retail category over the festive season. We've broken that down day by day and just highlighted some of the core days that we're seeing here. So I think really the Black Friday was huge over the period, and I think this chart really bears that out in terms of just showing what a significant force it's become. I think we're very much expecting similar levels of activity this year, if not a bit of growth as well. So I think definitely one of those days to watch. But then Cyber Monday and Manic Monday as well, coming into the later Christmas season, are still going to be massively important for our retail clients as well. So moving into email now, and we've just got some quick stats that we've pulled from our colleagues at the cross-channel marketing business, and these are aggregate figures of what they saw in terms of their client data. So overall, we're seeing an uplift in email activity of 11% last year. So really, despite the fact this has been one of those sort of traditional digital channels for a long time, we're still seeing growth. It's still very significant in that regard. In terms of the highest average unique open rate, where we're seeing the highest levels of engagement from consumers with email, the 9th of November really stood out. And then some crossover and rollovers to that on the 10th of November as well, but we saw the highest average click-to-open rate also. In terms of conversions, interestingly, that didn't happen pre-Christmas. It was actually the 27th of December where the highest average conversion rate occurred. So whether that is, potentially consumers trying to get vouchers used up, that could be one potential option, but interesting to see that it didn't fall pre-Christmas. Just a little bit of a focus now on the right-hand side around subject lines as well. So we can see that only 6% of the emails sent in November and December use one or more of the following words in their subject line. So really around Christmas, Xmas, Santa, Festive. I think the key thing we want to draw out was that these emails are 4% more likely to be opened than those with subject lines that didn't include any of those words. And generating that average click-to-open rate, it's being 54% higher. I think getting your subject lines right is obviously going to be key for email. And certainly learning from behaviour that was observed last year should stand our retail clients in good stead for the coming festive season. So just giving now a quick breakdown of who was shopping when over those key sale dates. So what we did, we broke out Black Friday, Cyber Monday and Manic Monday, so those early shopping days, and then Boxing Day and New Year's Day, just to assess those key differences between the different audiences. So looking at the top line, we're just looking at the Mosaic UK groups for each audience. So for the early shoppers around Black Friday, Cyber Monday and Manic Monday, we can see prestige positions, country living, suburban stability and domestic success. Now, these audiences are very much sort of family focused, a little bit older, quite settled and sort of established, really sort of mid to upper, sort of audience demographic. So really, Middle England up to, getting into fairly wealthy audiences here as well. We've just pulled out some of the key features here. So, receptive to email, marketing communications, fairly tech savvy as well. So in terms of engaging with them across different channels, that shouldn't really represent too much of a problem. Living in suburban locations as well, just to sort of paint that picture. So really going to be going out for presents for all the family. When we then look at those later dates around Boxing Day and New Year's Day, we can see city prosperity, prestige positions again, and then urban cohesion. So I think the core thing that we should focus on here is, there is a mixture of young and old, but these audiences are much less likely to be, have dependents as children. Early technology adopters, much more of a metropolitan focus. So city prosperity and urban cohesion, for instance, quite London-centric in their profile as well. So, when we're considering those days, that sort of rollover from Christmas, these audiences could be engaging with retail online primarily as that research tool, just trying to spot those deals and validate their choices before they go out into the post-Christmas sales, which will effectively be on their doorstep, and start shopping offline as well. So just a couple of the core differences there, which we pulled out and found quite interesting. Excuse me. What we also wanted to look at, just coming into this year and bringing our view of retail forward a bit, was just getting into the mobile aspect. So obviously, speaking and stating the sort of blindingly obvious, mobile has become a very important traffic driver to the whole of the retail category. But what we just wanted to offer a display of was the retail categories that really rely significantly on mobile traffic. And so what we've done, we've broken that down by mobile share and then desktop and laptop share as well. So we can see right at the top with the highest mobile share here, we've got health and beauty. So I think if you imagine what we're being exposed to daily now in terms of television advertising, those perfume and beauty adverts have really come to the fore again. I think it's the best benchmark that Christmas has started. So mid-October, those ads come in, and we see very high levels of response to health and beauty websites as well. Second in the list, we can see intimate apparel and accessories websites. So I think this is really offering that display of mobile being that more personal browsing choice. I think if we consider the websites that sit behind this category, it's not always going to be the sort of product mix that users are going to want to see people looking over their shoulders to see what they're having a look at to purchase for the period. So getting a sense of that can be pretty interesting. And then moving down the category, we can see at the bottom with office supplies. You'll be pleased to know we're not going to be drilling into that category today, but definitely the highest desktop share, I think, with good reason. In terms of when mobile share actually peaked, Black Friday was when we saw the highest level of mobile visitation to the retail category online. So I think a lot of this is going to be around the sort of the herd response that we observed on this day, and really users sort of almost compulsively deal seeking over this period, and really flooding onto retailer pages without any sort of particular clear goals, but just after a deal. And I think certainly when we speak to our retail clients, mobile is often more of a research tool. So when we're seeing this big uplift, that's probably going to impact conversion quite dramatically as well. So considering how we can get those mobile users to convert into buyers, I think is going to be one of the key considerations for Black Friday, and just making sure that audience is comfortable purchasing online through their mobile device. Obviously, we want to catch people on the move. People don't have time for it in the morning, but they're getting email campaigns coming out. How do we make sure that we're making them comfortable with transactions via mobile? So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Dan Catini, who is going to be taking you through some tips for your festive campaigns.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Catini and I'm a Client Services Executive here at Experian Hitwise. Now over the next few slides we're just going to be looking at some key reports which you can run directly from Hitwise to finalise your Christmas planning. And just to note as well, following this webinar we will be sending out some how-to guides for how to run each of these reports. So the first slide here looks at the daily total visits in the build-up to Christmas 2014 to both the appliances and electronics industry in the red there, and also to apparel and accessories as well in the blue. Now, what we can see here is that there's a clear difference in the trending of visits, where we see a peak in visits within that electrical industry. So people looking, I suppose, mainly for new TVs, mobile phones, tablets around Black Friday, which seems to be driving that. And in comparison, we don't actually see that great of an uplift in traffic for Black Friday around apparel and accessories, which is mainly driven around Boxing Day. So it's quite interesting just to depict from this that although we have seen, as Billy mentioned, Black Friday take over as the biggest online retail shopping day, it is predominantly driven by appliances and electronics, whereas we still see that similar trend in previous years, certainly around apparel, where the main or the biggest shopping day is actually on Black Friday. And this report is particularly interesting because what it does is not only highlights difference in trends for specific industries or sites, but you can then benchmark your own performance against a custom-made industry or against your own individual key competitors. So the next slide takes that similar approach to benchmarking these two industries against each other in the lead up to Christmas. However, this time we're using average visit time as a metric for understanding how consumers were engaging with both of these industries in the lead up to Christmas. And what we can see here is that certainly for appliances and electronics, there's quite a big uplift in that average visit time on the day. And even perhaps, I think around 5 to 6 days prior to that, you start to see how the average visit time is increasing, which indicates that users are already looking on sites, probably trying to find out what they're looking to then purchase on the day of Black Friday. So emphasising the importance of making any deals that you will be offering on those particular sale days already known, so that consumers go straight onto your site and make those purchases, just with that faith that it probably isn't likely to sell out. Now, the next few slides are actually going to take a look at some key traffic drivers. So we'll be looking at email, social media, and affiliates, where we'll be able to help you to identify ultimately when their campaigns and via which channels. Now, this report firstly shows the volume of clicks to both industries from email in that lead up to Christmas on a daily basis. Now, what we can see here is that the key day for email to both industries was on Boxing Day, where we saw the biggest increase in the amount. This was then followed by further from additional spikes around Black Friday and also on Cyber Monday. Now, by specifically profiling apparel and accessories here and just focusing in on that, we can see quite an interesting trend where 3 weeks prior to Christmas, we see an uplift in the amount of traffic being driven on that day. So this is great insight, and it's also a great report to run for your own industry to identify shape your campaigns, to identifying those best times where we're going to see the biggest click-through rate, and ultimately ensuring that any campaigns that you do send out are alongside your competitors and overall industry trend. We then use that same approach, so now looking at the volume of clicks to both of these industries from social networking sites in that lead up to Christmas. And what we can see here is a trend that mimics that of the total visits that we looked at earlier. Now, again, for Black Friday, you can see there's a sharp increase in the amount of traffic that appliances and electronics received from that channel on the day. In comparison, the driven, so that traffic from social media was mainly driven on Boxing Day. So just highlighting the key takeaway from this is that appliances and electronics, and certainly Black Friday, is geared towards those gadgets and electrical devices, whereas we still see that traditional increase in visits to Boxing Day, and certainly around the channels and the campaigns that are being sent out for apparel wear around those post-Christmas sales. Now, using this, similar to the other reports we've looked at, you can start to identify how your competitors are performing, which days they're sending out their own social media campaigns, and use this as a benchmark to plan your own campaigns around and to ultimately benchmark against. So finally, with those key traffic drivers, we're just going to conclude now looking at the affiliates industry, so walls and directories, which tends to include cashback type sites in that lead up to Christmas. Now, what we can see from this particular report is that walls and directory sites drove the majority of traffic to appliances and electronics, again around Black Friday, continuing that theme. But what's interesting is that 2 or 3 days prior to that, we start to see an uplift in traffic driven from affiliates. Now, this suggests that consumers are ultimately going to affiliate sites to find the best deals in advance of Black Friday. So emphasising the importance of just ensuring that any deals that you do have for these particular events are already made aware or highlighted to your kind of audience prior to that event in itself. Now, the other thing that we can see from this is that consumers were anticipating offers with apparel and accessory retailers, even though they don't appear to have been, I suppose, performing on Black Friday as much as we saw. See that after that peak of everybody drops off, so suggesting that consumers weren't finding offers and being driven through to apparel sites on that day. So the next few reports is going to focus around search, and this report in particular looks at the seasonality of searches around variations of click and collect over the last 3 years. Now, from this we can see that demand has grown year on year, consistently peaking in December. But what's most interesting is that we've seen a shift in terms of when that peak is for December. So looking back at 2012 and 2013, we actually saw that peak mid-month, a week prior to Christmas, there to the 15th of December 2012, and then also peaking again on the 14th in 2013. Now, last year, what we saw is that consumers were shopping a lot later, and that peak for click and collect searches was actually the week of Christmas. So that week. Now, this is interesting because what it allows you to do is obviously understand search demand over time and recognize any changing consumer trends that you can then adapt to. And looking even at the most recent date there around click and collect searches, we can already see around the 17th of October 2015 that searches for click and collect are up year on year already. So it'll be quite interesting to see how that plays out over the Christmas Day sales. We have then collectively measured actually who was receiving the highest amount of search traffic from that collection of terms. So ultimately looking at which readers received the most traffic from that combination of click and collect searches at the peak, so the weekend in the 27th of December 2014. Now from this we can see that there was a wide variety of retailers, so the likes and peer stores like Tesco's Direct, eBay and Argos receiving traffic from those terms. Now this report it's a great report for you to run. Not only does it allow you to monitor whether you're increasing your share of voice after a particular campaign, but also in terms of identifying those competitors that you're likely to be competing with for search, which you may not have already been aware of. Now to conclude on those search reports, we have taken search around gift for him, and we've compared that against all those ways in which people are searching around gift for her over the last 52 weeks. Now, from this we can see that looking back last year, last October, searches for gifts for him quite significantly there. So there was a big jump in that demand, showing that those people predominantly later. This So gift for him, again, following that same seasonal trend where the demand is a lot greater, but certainly I can see here that the searches have started to appear earlier around both sets there, so gift for him and gift for her. Now, with this report, it's a great report for publishers and content managers to use. So by identifying the searches behind these peaks, you can start to inform content ideas and use the trending of demand to define your content calendar. So ultimately finding out ideas for what to write about in gift guides. Alongside this, you may also consider using this report to inform merchandising, paid search, and the positioning of products on sites and in newsletters. So I'm now going to hand back to my colleague Billy, and he'll be able to take you through our new Audience View platform to drill down further into search and targeting by audience.
Thank you, Dan. And I hope you all agree it's good to see preconceptions about gender roles being borne out by data as well. What we're going to look at now is a quick profile that we've done trying to understand early Christmas shoppers. So we've created a couple of audiences using our new tool Audience View, which we've recently launched into the market, and certainly some of our clients will of course cite of already. But we wanted to give a bit of a flavour about how we can use it and what sort of differences we can spot across different audiences as well. So we've got two audiences of early Christmas shoppers, and we've defined them in the following way. So we're looking at users who've searched for all variations of Christmas or Xmas gifts, and then a male or female. So we've broken those audiences down. And somewhat predictably, the females in our panel are the ones that are prepared and being organised. We can see males are a much smaller constituent element, particularly by comparison. So about a quarter of the size of the early Christmas female audience in there as well. So versus wide about. So we'll start to move through, and this is just getting a very quick demographic snapshot of what that early female Christmas shopping audience looks like. So if we look at household income first, we can see the largest group is probably earning sort of 24 to 40,000 a year, but they're most likely to be earning over 55,000 a year. So fairly affluent. Not in London, interestingly. We saw Wales was the most over-indexed region for this group, with the largest group size being in the northwest. So more of a regional skew. And certainly when we then go to the mosaic audiences, we can see the largest group and the most over-indexed group was Group G. So this is domestic success. And typically this is younger families, so we can see in the age range as well, 25 to 34. So younger families with moderately good incomes, fairly well, and sort of I keep saying over this webinar, but it's being borne out by that younger, family-orientated audience planning early for Christmas. So what we can then do is say, okay, where can we reach them? And if we take blogs and personal websites as an example, there is start to assess, what are the specific properties where I'm going to have the best rate of penetration to get this group. So we can see Tumblr coming at the top there. So if we're looking at advertising strategies, trying to work out which pages within Tumblr are going to be offering us the best bang for our buck. Moving down slightly, we can then see where we're seeing high overrepresentation for this audience. We've got the kitchen.com and then popsugar.com as well. So I'll apply to any of the categories that sit within Hitwise. So, wider lifestyle, for instance, we could begin to include. But it's just allowing you to really direct your online media spend much more efficiently and effectively. What we then looked at was, where are they shopping now? What does that early Christmas shopping activity look like? And what we could see was that apparel and accessories was actually the top category for this audience. And this is where we're seeing Texas, so high likelihood for them to be shopping there now, and the ratio by which they're more likely to be compared to the UK average. So we can see F&F, Asda, Matalan, Primark as well, really standing out. So that sort of supermarket-led grocery approach, but those peripheral product sets. So if we take clothing in Tesco, Asda, Matalan, Primark, could be buying presents for children. It could be a mix for themselves, but it's that level of convenience that's really standing out. New Look, Dorothy Perkins as well, into sort of party season, will also be a potential option as well. And everything £5, and Poundland really driving through that, despite the fact that this audience is actually fairly wealthy for a deal, is really something that is probably going to be driving this audience. And we've seen big changes in behaviour since we've come out of recession. Whichever demographic group it is, everyone likes a bargain, and that's something that comes through again and again in a lot of the project work that we're engaged with. So that's a quick snapshot of the female audience. What we're now doing is moving through to the early Christmas shoppers male audience. And there are some similarities, but some subtle differences which I think I want to just highlight now. So in terms of household income, again, we're seeing relatively similar profile there. So the largest group, 24 to 40,000 a year. Most over-indexed, 40 to 55,000. So they're not quite as affluent as those female shoppers that we saw earlier. Wales standing out again. If you're getting that delivery of items planned in and making sure that things are going to arrive on time, this is clearly going to be a bit of a consideration there, particularly if it's sort of rural locations. And then look at the mosaic breakdown. We can see it's actually a slightly lower value audience, a little bit older as well. The middle market audience. We've got J in there as well, which is actually quite a low value group, and that's where we're seeing the highest index score as well. So we're dealing with not as much of a sort of privileged base in that regard, but still that 25 to 34-year-old audience coming through. And where we can find them, so we've gone into the news and just want to understand for this audience, if we're pushing money into sort of large-scale online media campaigns, which news publication should we be going? And we're seeing the Daily Mail come out right on top, and this audience to be going there, 30% more likely compared with the UK average. We then come down to Guardian, where we're seeing sort of similar levels of browsing activity compared with the online population. But then we come down to Mirror, which is where we start to see big overrepresentation for this audience. So I think the sort of key summary, if you were looking from a planning perspective, this is a group that is not going to be reached through traditional broadsheets or I suppose what would be regarded as high quality output. It's much more of a red top sort of tabloid skew that we're seeing that who the audience is, and understanding the sorts of content that they're digesting day to day is going to be key in informing where that media spend goes. So I think this report's excellent at doing that. And then in terms of where they're shopping, we actually saw the sort of toys and gifts category really emerge very strongly for the male audience who are shopping early for Christmas. So what really comes out is we've got some of these traditional toys, more traditional online toy stores, so Smith's, Wicked Uncle, and The Entertainer as well. Lego, they're buying those, but you would hope it's for their beloved children. And we can see the Disney store coming in there. So I think whereas we're seeing that female audience very much focused on catering for the family rather than just the children or themselves, we're very much seeing the fathers focus on maybe the fun purchase of specific toys, for instance. So I think that links back quite nicely to the analysis that we saw from Dan around when gifts need to come in early as opposed for gifts for her, whereas men seem to be panicking late in the day. The differing psychologies around those, or certainly the female need to be focused on the broad. Focused on so what's really emerging. fulfillment. We also tailor to the differences that we put across in this webinar between apparel and the appliance and electronics markets, and particularly the channels there, but also behaviours around those dates as well. So really making sure that you've got a full view of what worked and didn't work last year is going to be crucial in ensuring success on that day, particularly given how top-heavy Christmas is for retailers already. With days like Black Friday coming in, that can almost narrow your opportunity to really achieve good revenue growth out of your consumers. Cyber Monday as well, Manic Monday. These are no surprises. I think we're expecting growth, particularly on Cyber Monday as well. So maybe that sort of roll well over that earlier period of time. So a bit of growth around Manic Monday, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. I think we're expecting some uplifts as well. It's still one of the biggest days of the year, and we can't ignore that. Don't get too focused just solidly looking at Black Friday. Despite its importance, Boxing Day is still right up there as well, and you need to make sure coverage is really good and you're getting the right offers to consumers at that point in time. And then New Year's Day as well, we're expecting growth there also. So those are the sort of growth predictions we've got. Hopefully we'll be proved correct this year. Won't be caught out as much as we were last time. But it would be interesting. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out over the coming year. One final piece that we're just going to look at, which I know has been something that's been commented on by a number of clients, is the rise in interest for mobile payments as well. So this chart is just looking at all variations of mobile payment search by week. So I'm sure over the past month we'll all have seen and been targeted fairly heavily with Apple Pay alongside banks, the payment providers as well. Given the level of mobile traffic that we're expecting over some of these key days, particularly Black Friday, when you've got that opportunity with consumers, making sure that they're comfortable on those days, making sure that you can be trusted is going to be absolutely crucial, and just making sure that is instilled within your communications, and that you're making those consumers as comfortable as possible with paying on mobile devices will be key. To give you a quick view of who's most interested in mobile payments, it's certainly not something I've searched for, but we can see a big skew towards a male audience. So they're male, moderately successful in terms of their earning capacity, so 5,000, also 55,000 or more. We can see some good over-index there. And then when we look at the age range as well, 25 to 30, again, the well-worn phrase of millennials, I think, is coming out. There's not always a better way to describe it, but I think it gives you that flavour of the audience that is really seeking information here and wants to engage with as well. In terms of where they're shopping now, this is just a quick overview of retailers that we're seeing high engagement with, or brands that we're seeing high engagement with this audiences. So again, just reiterating that we're pushing out, we're able to get really quick information of what these users are doing, and where they're going, where they shop, what motivates them, where we can target them most effectively. So really providing you with that full picture to feed into both planning and real-life communications as well. So thank you very much for your time. I'm just going to go for excuse me, what we do with retailers to help them out over the Christmas period. So I think the pre and post Christmas analysis, so really helping you to benchmark your performance against the market, is one of the key ways in which clients clients are using served, or we have the capacity to help you out and do that internally as well. We've got an excellent research team, an excellent CSE team that can, really measurement and making sure that you're pulling out the right reports to look at what we or what you as brands were doing well or not so well against the wider market, so that we can really get to grips with performance over the festive period. Second piece as well, also as a new platform, if you're after snapshots reports out of this, please, account managers, and we can really start to help you gain a complete understanding of your target audiences, how they're behaving, where they're interacting, and really just helping you to plan where to put your media, engage with them more effectively, and then measure the success of those campaigns on the back of it as well. So thank you again for your attendance. Hopefully I'm slightly ahead of time, which I think I am. We've had a few questions come through, which I'm now going to try and read off a very small screen with my terrible eyesight. So first question was, does mobile data include tablets? The answer is yes, it does. So we classify mobile visitation as anything from a tablet device or mobile device as well. And that's a device level, not browser level. So yes, mobile and tablets we cluster as one, and then sort of desktop and laptop we classify separately as a PC, if you like. So next question, best place to target females at Christmas, is that on Tumblr? We've used that as an example. If you would like more information, Laura, please get in touch and we can work out how best to guide you there. I think what we were looking at was early Christmas shoppers. So this is an audience that had searched for Christmas gifts and was female. So we can help offer a little more clarity there if you'd like to get in touch with your account manager or myself directly. Just we can give you more information there. Third question we're looking. In terms of how we see mobile changing this year and whether mobile share is going to rise, I think splitting mobile and desktop browsing is something of a fallacy. I think ultimately, you're reaching the same user whether they visit you on mobile or desktop device. I think it's important to understand what that split is so that you can understand motivations. I think thinking beyond the device and more about the consumer is going to be the most important thing over Christmas and going into 2016 as well. And that's where I think we're really well placed to help you, because we can understand at a mobile and desktop level how best to target the consumers you want to reach, and making sure that whatever messaging you put across is placed on the right channel across different devices and is hitting the consumer you want to reach, not the platform. In terms of growth that was predicted, spend growth, no, it won't be. What we were looking at was total visit growth to the category. Sorry if that wasn't clear. We'll make sure when we send these slides out after that's corrected. So that was to confirm when we were looking at the predictions, that's total visit growth. Will we be doing similar webinars for other verticals, industries, health and wellness? Potentially, yes. I think the Christmas webinars always get a great response. If there are any specifics, it'd be great if you could give us feedback around what you'd like to see in those webinars and what you want to gain from them. We realise a lot of different brands, there's lots of different crossovers. So yeah, more than happy to run more. If you could email marketing.services@experian.com, just let them know rather what your thoughts are. That'd be great. presentation for the USA. We don't at the moment, Christopher. What we will do, we'll get in touch with our colleagues on the US team and just see what they've prepared there. We'll see if we can send anything across to you, because I know that'll be of interest. Will the slides be available after the webinar? Yes, they will. Sorry, I'm being referred information as I speak, so thank you for bearing with me. The slides will be available fairly quickly afterwards. We're also recording the presentation. Share this in organisations you work within. Again, get in touch with us directly or your account manager, and we can send these slides over to you if you have information to share within your business. Hopefully they're going to be interesting to you. So that, I have been told, is the end of the questions, and I'm sure you'll all be pleased to know the end of the webinar. So thank you for your attendance. If you've got any other questions or need anything else or anything needs clarifying, please get in touch. We'll be here to help, not just try and flog stuff to you.